Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Criminally Mental Podcast. My name is Kody.
And I'm Zac Galloway, and here to introduce our show is the friend of our show and the host of the DT Network, Deadman.
Welcome to the Criminally Mental Podcast, where we talk about mental health and the criminal justice system, with your two hosts, Kody Green and Zac Galloway, currently both on parole and compassionate release. Now, here's the show.
You know, the only thing smoother than that man's voice are our balls.
Thanks to Manscaped.
Thanks to Manscaped.
Thanks to the brand new Lawnmower 4.0.
That's right. And with the, what was the package called? I forgot.
The performance package? Is that what you're wondering about?
Yeah, the performance package, because I clearly looked at the list of talking points for our sponsor.
The performance package 4.0 also includes the Weed Whacker nose and ear trimmer. Is that what you were trying to get at, Zac?
This is exactly what I was trying to get at. It also comes with the ball toner, my personal favorite.
Absolutely. And today we are actually going to be talking about childhood memories. So we're going to do a little bit of Q&A, but first we actually want to do two truths and a lie. And this is tough for Zac because he had to think all the way back to the 1960s.
Ha, dick. Anyway, we didn't talk about the stakes here. What are the stakes? What are we betting?
Oof. I hate that you put me on the spot for this.
Of course I did.
Because I did not at all think about any stakes.
Stakes.
I don't know, man. What do you want?
I think we should do the beard shaving again.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Just because I love the 12-year-old girl look of Kody Green. Not in a weird way. Not in a weird way, but I definitely appreciate that.
All right, fine. Whoever loses has to shave their beard.
Yep.
Here we go again.
Going down, homie.
But we are going to be doing a Q&A, so if you guys at any point want to start asking questions, I will be bringing them up later on during the podcast. But we figured to give people time to get filtered in, we would start with the two truths and a lie. So I am going to let Zac go first.
Okay. The first one for me is I was the first person in 2 generations to graduate high school.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll ask some follow-up questions, but I feel like that one could be plausible.
I'm sure you would.
Wouldn't that mean you would have had to graduate high school though? That's the hang up I'm having on that one.
I did, by the skin of my teeth.
All right. Well, my first one is when I was in the performance of Beauty and the Beast, I actually fell off the stage once.
Why were you on stage anyway? You're a stagehand, right? Someone in the back, crew member?
No, I was. It was my freshman year. I was like a background character.
Huh. You fell off the stage.
Yep.
Well, while I want to believe that's true, I'm going to have some questions about it later.
All right. What is your second question? My second, I
guess, truth is I was homecoming queen. Homecoming king. Oh God. I was voted as homecoming king. Oh my God.
All right. That one, I would have believed that you were homecoming queen. I don't know about the homecoming king, but that's a good one to try to trick me, I feel like.
Especially if you've paid attention to some of my other content, you know if that's true or
not. Another one I have is, so my second story is that in elementary school, I was actually expelled for trading Yu-Gi-Oh cards.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
I was the Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon dealer of the school, and I was expelled for that.
The Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon dealer.
Yeah, isn't that the coolest thing you've ever heard?
That's so street G. Mad props and respect to you, blood. For mine, I was a huge theater nerd in high school. and I actually got Best Actor in like the kind of Southern California region when I was in my junior year.
Okay. I'm just taking some notes here. All right. I mean, that one might be believable. My last one is I was once beat up during Halloween while wearing a Power Rangers outfit by a girl.
Well,
Who?
I also want to believe that just because it's you getting beat up by a girl, which I imagine happens daily in your life nowadays. um, Okay, so I have some questions.
All right, go for it.
When you were expelled for being a Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon dealer,
Yeah.
how did they catch you?
So what had happened
Was it a sting operation? That's
it
what
was a sting operation. So
Yeah.
I only ever brought my Yu-Gi-Oh or Pokemon cards out while we were in recess. So I wouldn't like bring them to class or anything like that because I knew they'd get taken away. Because they actually at my school they banned us doing any trading card games because people would always like go to the principal if they lost a game or lost a card or thought a trade was unfair. So they banned any playing cards, but I couldn't give it up because I was addicted at the time. It was my first real addiction was trading cards. And and so they one day when I had them out for recess, another student had told them that I was bringing them out, and I'd go like by the doorway because all the teachers would be by the jungle gym, and they had another teacher waiting inside the doorway for me to pull out my cards. So it kind of was a sting operation.
So you got straight snitched on then.
Oh yeah,
much.
yeah.
Okay.
Never found out by who, but
it's always the one closest to you. So yeah.
All right. Do you have any other questions, or should I take a turn asking questions?
Why don't you take a turn? Take a crack at the Zac.
So when you were nominated Homecoming Queen, Homecoming King, was it like several people? First of all, how big was your school?
My school was actually huge. This is absolute true. You look it up. So my school in total has 6,000 students, and my class had like 1,800 in them. So,
are you serious?
I'm serious.
Do you know how many people were in my class?
Maybe 20 or 30.
66.
Oh my God! I was being totally horrible to you, but wow, really 66?
Yeah. Yep. 66.
Wow, you suck, Kody. God.
How can I control that about my graduating class?
I don't know, but you should have controlled it, man. I mean, 66 people in a graduating class. Yeah. I had literal classes that had more people in them. Like in one class had more than 66 people.
I believe it.
Yeah.
What? Oh, why don't you ask, or I just asked. Right. Yeah, you can ask the next question.
When you got beat up by a girl.
Yeah.
One, how hard did you cry? And two, did it sound like a little bitch?
Yes to both of those, I guess. I cried really hard. It was embarrassing because I was like out with all my friends. So me and 3 of my other friends went all as the Power Rangers. So
super weird.
It was super goofy. Weird. It was like elementary school.
Isn't there like 5 Power Rangers anyway? I mean,
we only had 4 friends. All right, just okay. We worked with what we had.
I see.
And so I'm surprised you didn't ask what the girl who beat me up was dressed as.
Yet. I haven't gonna say yet.
Okay. So she was dressed up as trying to think of the princess, Cinderella. So she was dressed up as Cinderella.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I did cry a lot because it was in front of all my friends, and that made me sad.
I mean, that makes me sad hearing it, so that makes sense. Yeah. Right.
Just you're sad for me just hearing that?
No, I'm not sad for you because I don't generally care about you, but I'm sad hearing the story. You know what I mean? Like when you hear about a turtle getting run over, you don't feel like for the turtle specifically, but the event happening is a bad thing.
I mean, I would feel bad for the turtle. Nonetheless, I have a few more questions for you.
Please.
So when you said you were voted best actor, am I getting that right?
Correct.
that wasn't like in your like yearbook. You're saying that was like in
That-
your area.
That was actually like all of Southern California, all of the high school productions and everything. It was actually a pretty big deal.
Which production were you in when you received that award? Was it based on a accumulation of all of your productions or just one of them?
No, it was a musical called How to Succeed in Business Without Even Trying.
I actually know
And
the musical.
You know, I was the boss. What was it the old guy's name? It was like Mr. Widget or something.
Something like that.
Yeah,
Yeah. I haven't seen it in years.
Yeah, but that was the production I was in. That's what they judged it off of.
Okay. All right. Well, if it is a lie, I mean, you're really putting it together well. So, all right. Any more questions for me?
What was your first lie or your first truth? Sorry.
The first one I said was spelled for training. I don't know if I wrote it down. I didn't write that one down. I did expelled for training cards, beat up by a girl while dressed as a Power Ranger. I actually forget which the first one I did was.
So I know after she's between those two. Okay, I got it.
No, that's just I forgot to write it down.
No, I got it. Do you have any questions for me, sir?
Yeah. What was your first one?
My first one was I'm the first person in 2 generations to graduate.
Oh, that's right. Oh, my first one was fell off a stage during a performance of Beauty and the Beast.
That one's stupid. You're stupid.
So first one to graduate. Are you saying both parents and both grandparents didn't graduate high school then?
I only know of one side. So
okay. So you're just speaking specifically of like your mother's side then?
Yeah.
Okay. And so what years, like what age range did they drop out? Was it high school for both of them?
High school for both. Both of them about 17, actually.
Okay. All right. I think that is all the questions that I have for you. Do you have any more for me?
Nope. I think I'm good. I know what I'm going to say.
All right. Are we writing them down or just saying them?
I mean, I can't really write.
I can't either. So, all right. I'm going to take my guess. Tell me if I'm right or wrong.
Okay.
My guess is that you were not the first high school graduate in 3 generations.
Boom. You lost. You lost hard, bud. That's right.
All right.
Oh.
Well, hey, you still, if you don't get mine, then you lose too. So I don't know what you're so excited about.
You didn't get beat up on Halloween by Cinderella as a Power Ranger.
I did. The lie was actually expelled for trading cards. So I did get in trouble, but I was never expelled for it.
Oh, so you went with a partial truth. That's malarkey, I feel. That's malarkey.
Yeah, well, malarkey or not, you, sir, did not guess right. So you can keep enjoying my beard.
Yeah, I suppose. I suppose. Ugh. I left a bad taste in my mouth, sir. That's all I'm going to say about that.
All right. Well, next time I'll try to make it more of an complete lie.
Yeah. Yeah, you little half-truther.
Little half-truther.
Yeah.
But seriously, thank you guys for joining us. We figured it'd be a great time to let you know a little bit about us as kids, since the rest of the time we're going to let you guys ask questions about anything you want, whether it's regarding our pasts. Both of us have struggled in the past with mental illness, addiction, and the criminal justice system. So those are primarily the questions and comments we're looking forward to. But any questions at all, whether, it's why am I so much nicer and friendlier than Zach, that is easy to ask question.
Or why I'm so much more better looking and successful than Kody, whatever.
Well, I don't think they're going to, ask things that aren't true, but
They could.
They might. But seriously, if you guys have any questions, definitely throw them in the comments. I am going to look through here to see. I thought I saw a couple of questions go through as we were going here.
I'm seeing these two. People do not like you, Kody Green. That's what I'm seeing here.
Oh, I did not see those ones. I must have missed them.
Yeah. That's rough.
Oh, here's a good question. How to succeed is actually a possibility for Zac to do as a child since it came out in 1966. Not really a question, but I like
more of a statement, actually.
But I just wanted to feature it really quick.
Yeah, it's fair.
I did see a question in here as well, which was, do they stream on multiple platforms, or is this only live on YouTube? So we do stream on the Criminally Mental Facebook page, the Criminally Mental YouTube page, and the Schizophrenic Hippie YouTube page as well.
I ended my life.
Oh.
Okay. Someone asks, I can't put these up, can I? Darn it. Got one from Tim Campbell. Zac, tell us where you've been the past few months.
You can go ahead and answer. I don't see it.
Okay.
Go ahead and answer.
I got a question from Tim Campbell. Zac, tell us where you've been the last few months. I've kind of touched on this a lot in the last episode, but mainly I've just been recovering from my seizure that I had. I do appreciate that you noticed that I was gone, but as most people know, I had a pretty bad seizure back in October-ish, and when I woke up in the hospital, I had brain swelling of over like 30%. I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk really, I couldn't even feed myself. So it's been a pretty long and rough road of recovery coming back from that. I've only recently really gotten my ability to speak back. So that's where I've been. Where have you been, Tim Campbell? Yeah. How is that?
I got another question here. It says, we can both answer this one because since we're both recovering addicts, this is a good question for both of us, but it is, what started your addiction? And the person mentioned, I was 13. My older brother got me addicted to heroin. I am 21 now, and I've been clean for 8 years. First of all, congratulations on 8 years clean.
Seriously, that's awesome.
That is super cool. And for me, my schizophrenia was the direct causation of my addiction. I started using drugs as a way to cope with my hallucinations, specifically as a way to just distract myself from any symptoms I was having.
And for me, so I was my mother was a heroin addict. So I grew up, I had my first overdose when I was 2, but my upbringing, I honestly didn't want anything to do with drugs for a long time. I was a very heavy drinker from the time I was 14 on. By the time I was 21, I was in the hospital with cirrhosis. So that's pretty much where that came from. It wasn't until I hurt my back as an EMT that I got prescribed painkillers, and that just, they way overprescribed them to me. I was getting some like 90 Norco a week and going through them every week, and that didn't seem to be a problem for the doctors, So when that stopped, obviously I had to get my opiate fix from somewhere, and that's what led me to heroin. So.
And this question is for Zac. How is the book coming along? I know I speak for many of us when I say we are very excited to read it.
Well, thank you, R.A. Towell. The book's come along pretty well. I kind of had to take a little break from writing just because it is very difficult to write with how shaky I get sometimes. So I kind of go through periods of times where I can't really write. But I am looking forward to releasing it this year, probably within the next 4 or 5 months, hopefully. So.
Bridget Bowman asked, they said, I have a year left of nursing school. I'm very interested in behavior/mental health. It seems to be so stigmatized and mistreated. What have you found most helpful from people in healthcare? And for me personally, it's people in healthcare not judging my symptoms before they know exactly what I'm dealing with. I had several times where I came in with hallucinations and delusions where healthcare workers would try to put me in detox because they thought I was struggling with, drugs or drinking. And so I would say try to gather all the information about a client before you assume you understand what's going on with them. Because if they would have looked at any of my information, if they would have asked me, I would have probably been able to explain to them exactly what was going on.
I kind of going along that vein. Don't just take what's written down in their history or their profile as the end all with them. I can remember once I went in to a hospital that I had been brought into as an OD years before. I mean, years before, and I had gotten clean, and they actually missed my gallbladder had blown up inside me because they thought I was a drug seeker. So I mean that was terrible. All this agonizing pain, and the doctors were just kind of like, "Oh yeah, you're fine. You're just here for drugs." And it wasn't until I literally grabbed one of the nurses and said, "Like, look, if I wanted drugs, I could get better drugs than you guys have. That's not what I'm here for." So that would be my advice. Kind of along the same vein as your response, though.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point too. I didn't even consider that. Yeah, that's a really good one, specifically for people who have struggled with addiction and it's noted in their medical history.
Yeah.
The next question is from Struggle Bus Beep. When/how did you realize you had a substance abuse problem? Do you want to go first on this one?
So I probably should have figured it out by the time I was 21 years old. When I woke up on my 21st birthday, and I had to at 8 a.m. go out and buy a bottle of booze because I was going through detox. I was DTing already. But honestly, for me, the full gravity of everything didn't hit me until I was like 24 and living on the streets homeless. Then it was very apparent to me that I had a problem. Unfortunately, it took me that long to even consider getting clean or sober, and I didn't for many years after that. That's the crazy part. But that's when I really realized that it was a real issue in my life, because I had gone to rehab before, and I kind of did the whole like, oh yeah, I'll do this for 30 days and then I can drink again or I can use drugs again. I just need to get this out of my system. But it wasn't really until I was faced with being homeless for potentially forever that I really came to terms with it.
For me, I was really fortunate that when I went through my psychotic break, I had my mom and my now wife were both still around when I was struggling with addiction. Because like I said, my addiction was primarily caused because of my schizophrenia and my hallucinations. And so during this time when they were trying to convince me to go get help because of my mental illness, they were also very aware of my addiction issues and were pushing me to go get that addressed as well. Obviously, they never forced me to. They were just constantly encouraging because, as I've explained several times, you can't really force someone struggling with addiction or mental health issues to get help. They have to come to terms with it on themselves. If they're going to take recovery seriously, if they're going to actually do it, they have to want to do it themselves. And so I was really lucky. I had people in my life that urged me to look at, what I was doing, how much I was spending on different types of drugs. And so it's probably because of them that I was able to identify it as a problem.
And honestly, it's a really good. I mean, I get the question a lot from people who always come to me with the, Zach, I have a brother or a friend who's in active addiction. What can I say or do? I've done everything possible. And ultimately, like Kody said, until they're ready to admit that they have a problem, honestly, you kind of just love them from afar, but there's not a whole lot you can do. And that sucks, but it's the truth.
It's one of those things where we make it really clear. We're not saying give up on them. We're just saying be there, but be there for when they're ready to receive help. Because there comes a moment in every addict's like struggle where they look down at everything they're doing and they're like, okay, well, it might be time. Maybe I should go talk to so-and-so who's been suggesting I go get help. So, and it's a hard thing to do to sit by and watch it, but you can't force anyone to go get help. So the most productive thing you can do is just be there for them so that when they're ready to get help, you're there and you can get them the help they need.
Yeah, it's a very good point.
The next question is from I Am Eris. It is, I am a 911 dispatcher. What is one thing you wish, as someone with a mental health disorder, we would ask, say, support if you ever had to call 911?
That's an awesome question. Go ahead, Kody. Sorry.
No, it is. It's a super good question. I will say, NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, has recently released a plan for a different dial-in number. So instead of 911, there will be a mental health number specifically for people calling in about mental health crises. I'm just checking here. So it's going to be 211, and that's going to be for people that can call specifically to get mental health response. That being said, if someone does call 911, keep in mind that if they say to you, hey, I am struggling with suicidal tendencies, I'm struggling with mental illness in general, make sure that the officers realize that, because officers approach situations with the information they are given.
Yeah.
So a lot of the times when we see unfortunate circumstances where someone with mental illness is killed by a police officer, part of that is because they went into the situation not realizing that the person was struggling with suicidal ideology or with mental health in general.
I remember there was an occasion that when I was on the street, actually, I was strung out of my mind. I didn't know what to do. I was coming down, I was detoxing, and I called 911, and I just said, I need some help. I don't know what's going on. I'm seeing things, blah, blah, blah. And they must have logged it as something dangerous, because the cops showed up and they didn't say 2 words before I was on the ground with the knee to my neck, and they're asking me, where's your knife? Where's this? I'm like, I don't have anything, dude. I was the one who called you. So that's probably, like Kody said, the biggest thing is just to establish that this is a mental health crisis, that this person may not be a danger to other people, that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. And then I would say the same thing for, like he was talking specifically about addiction. If someone calls you about addiction related items, that's still under the umbrella of mental health. So I don't feel like you need to alert. I feel like sometimes police officers are alerted that it's a dangerous situation just because there is addiction aspect to a call. And most of the time, if someone is going out of their way to call based on their own addiction, it's because they need help.
Right.
That you don't need some sort of crazy response for that. They just need someone who can get them the help they need. And keep in mind that if you're responding to someone calling about addiction, that might be them taking that step of saying, finally admitting they need help. So if you respond really, really poorly, that might be the last time that person ever reaches out for help.
I know that was the last time that I reached out for help for a long time after that, honestly. And it was all because of the police response, honestly.
Yep.
Because I, like you said, I'd hit a rock bottom. I needed help. I couldn't go in. I couldn't even move. I was hurting so bad. So I called 911, and instead I got roughed up a bit. But
yeah, so I think that's incredibly important to keep in mind. But thank you for the question. That is a really good question.
Yeah, thank you. I am Eris.
The next question is from Ellis Ingham. The question is, have either of you ever had problem with alcohol abuse?
Yes, actually, Ellis. I kind of touched on this before. I recently actually just got my 1-year sober chip. Even though I've been clean off drugs for years, I still drank. And even though I didn't drink as much as I used to, it definitely was a problem. So, yeah, definitely had alcohol issues. And for a long time, that's all I did. For a very long time, the only drug I used was alcohol. And I always thought I was safe in that, because I wasn't like these drug addicts out there who were going out and doing all these shady things. I could go to the liquor store and get my fix. That's legal. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I will say that alcohol has this weird in-between image when it comes to addiction. There are people who firmly believe alcohol is not an addiction. I live in Wisconsin, which is one of the drunkest states in America, and drinking is glorified here to the point where people who are actively struggling with alcohol addiction don't even realize it because we don't identify it as an issue. That being said, I'm very fortunate. My addiction was with hard drugs. I do occasionally drink, obviously not a lot because I take psychiatric medication. But I'm the type of person who I can have one or two drinks, set it down, and not come back to it. I know not everyone is that fortunate. I personally have never struggled with alcohol abuse. That being said, have I drank more than I should on occasion? Absolutely. But that goes back to my ideology of how we as a country don't treat alcohol like an addiction. We treat it as a party, we treat it as fun. And so looking back, I definitely took more advantage of alcohol than I needed to. And it's something I came to terms with and I don't really do anymore. I'll have a drink or two if I'm out with my wife, but I don't by any means go as in depth as I used to with alcohol.
The hardest thing about having a problem with alcohol is that it's everywhere.
Yeah.
Unlike with drugs, when I stopped using drugs, I pretty much stopped hanging around people that use drugs. Because nobody likes to be around a sober person when you're high.
Yeah.
It's just part of it. However, like majority of my friends, my fiance drinks. It's not a problem, but the majority of people still go out and drink and all that sort of thing. So it was very hard for me to come to a place where I had to realize it's okay for them to drink. It's not okay for me to drink.
Yeah.
So.
And then going along with that, the next question is from Deb Ward, and it is, what keeps you guys sober?
Eddie's sweet ass. My fiance's sweet ass keeps me sober, baby.
For me, I would say
you better not say Eddie's sweet ass too.
I would say, yeah, it's Eddie's sweet ass. That's what I think keeps me sober. No, I think for me, it's my mom and my wife have both really helped me with my addiction. Also, for me, I understand that because I have mental illness, drug use and addiction can have a lot worse outcomes for me than the average person. If I were to use drugs that ended me back up into a psychiatric facility because of delusions, I've had delusions that have caused suicidal ideology. And so in order to prevent, delusions, hallucinations from being really bad, the best thing I can do is avoid drugs.
That's obviously a smart way of going about it, and I have a similar response. Honestly, for me, my fiance, of course, aside from his sweet ass, he really does help keep me in check a lot too, and the understanding that I kind of walk this fine line daily with my mental health, and I don't need anything to push me to the edge, because the edge for me was homelessness, prison, all these negatives, and now I have a pretty good life. I really don't have much complaints. So it's a mix between knowing what just a little bit of drugs will do to me and realizing that it's just not worth it anymore for me. And also Eddie's sweet ass.
Of course. How could we forget?
Mm-hmm.
The next question is, how did you two come together to start this? And have you ever met in person?
Yes, we have. Yes, we have. How did we start this?
So I think we both got tagged in each other's TikTok videos a lot because at the time I was doing less about schizophrenia and I was doing more about my nonprofit. And so with me talking more about being an ex-convict and having this nonprofit helping people with criminal records, and then Zac talking about his different prison stories, we did get tagged in each other's content a lot. I know that Eddie followed me and Allison followed Zac, so it was kind of inevitable that we'd eventually find each other's content.
That's right. And then we did that fundraiser, right?
Yep. And then I did a fundraiser for my nonprofit. And during that fundraiser, me and you announced that we were going to be doing the Criminally Mental podcast.
That's right. Now I remember.
And we have actually met in person too. Zac flew out year and a half, 2 years ago now.
About a year and some change, I think. About that.
Yep. Yeah, he came out. We even went up to Chicago to meet Jess Kent, so that was super fun. I'd love to have all three of us do that again. That was one of my favorite collaboration experiences. And so hopefully we'll be able to meet up soon. Either I'll go out there and visit that knucklehead, or he can come back out here to Wisconsin and have all the cheese curds he could desire.
Oh, the cheese curds are so good. I mean, your state is on the whole garbage, but your cheese curds are amazing.
Yeah. No, and when we're talking about garbage, I mean, the cheese curds are good, but there's no way they're good for you.
No, absolutely not.
But that's what makes them good.
They're so, everything about it is just the cheesiness and the curdiness. I need a minute.
And while Zac takes that minute thinking about the cheese curds, our towel just asked, are you guys back to your regular weekly upload schedule? So yes, we will be doing the live every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And then I will be uploading the audio version onto Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and all streaming platforms, either that night or the following morning if I forget to upload it that night.
Most likely the following morning. But
last week, I uploaded it the same night. So
Did you?
I
Really?
did. Yeah.
Wow.
Super rare. Maybe it might happen again, but Zac's probably right. It'll probably be up the following morning.
Good. The question before that from Dark God. Do that.
Yep. So Dark God asked, Zac, how did you handle having a mom who had an addiction? My mom is alcoholic, and it's hard for me, and I know it's hard for her too.
So this is a really great question. Thank you for asking this. Something that I never understood until I was well into my own addiction was how anyone could choose a substance over their child. And I bemoaned that. I sobbed about it. I cried about it. I couldn't grasp it until I was well into my own addiction, doing the exact same thing to people I loved in my life. And especially for me, because my mom ended up dying and she was murdered. But I mean, it was kind of drug involved. You know, her choices led her to that. Not that it was her fault for getting murdered, but honestly, the only thing you can do is separate the person from their disease. And I know that sounds simple, and I understand it's not, and it's going to take years to even wrap your mind around that concept. But remember that there is the person you love, your mom, and then there is her disease that she deals with. And I'm sure it's hard on her too. I know she probably dislikes being an alcoholic, but that's the only advice I can give to you, is try and understand that the person you love and the person that still loves you is very much so there. They just have this disease that's getting in the way of it.
I will say too, because I don't talk about this a lot because I don't want people to look at my mom negatively. But I have touched on it before. My mom, while she was going through, before her diagnosis of schizoaffective, she was very similar as me. She was using drugs as a way to cope. And so I also watched my mom not only struggle with the schizophrenia symptoms, but also with addiction. And it's something that I don't talk about a lot because my mom, when she stopped using, she was always there for me. And it was most of middle school, all of high school, she was no longer using. And so even though I still remember what it was like when she was using, and she would like bring me to my grandma's so we didn't have to be around it. Like Zac said, it's one of those things where I try not to think about it because I know that she wasn't that person. I see it now every single day. I saw it well through high school. She was always there to support me despite her mental illness. She was able to separate herself from addiction and the mental illness to make sure that we got the care we needed. But it was one of those things where we had to be very aware, even after she got sober, that was something she struggled with. And it was something that, I was always worried about dealing with. And unfortunately, addiction, whether people like to admit it or not, addiction does have a genetic component. So there is a lot of the time you'll see people who have parents that are addicts that become addicts themselves, whether it's mental health related, whether it is just addiction itself. And it's one of those things where a lot of people's parents have struggled with addiction, and it's hard to separate what you remember about them as an addict and what you know about them as a caring parent.
And yeah, just kind of circle back on that. Kody had the benefit of his mom getting sober, and that I'm sure there had to be a lot of healing process that happened, through just years of communication. I never had that. So I carried with me through a lot of my life this resentment of my mom, because my mom chose, in my mind, it was my mom chose to do drugs. My mom got in these situations. My mom was murdered because she made these choices. And had I learned at a younger age to let go of that sort of resentment, man, honestly, I would have been so much more healthier as a human being. So I just want to say, if you're harboring a sort of resentment towards your mom, know that you're not helping you or her at all.
Absolutely. The next question we have, does what you have going on and what you two have gone through make you worry about future children if you're planning on having any? And that
Fuck those kids. What?
That question is from Robbie Everhart. I don't know. I feel like me and Zach and both of our spouses are pretty much on the same page with this. I know me and Allison are not planning on having kids. My diagnosis of schizophrenia did play a role in that, but it wasn't the only decision. And as far as I know, Zach, you and Eddie are kind of on the same page.
Eddie and I are definitely on the same page. We're not having human children. We have kittens, we have cats, and that's fine with us. But yep. But honestly, what I've been through, I definitely do worry about with, other people's kids and stuff like that. I know I see a lot of these trends that are going along nowadays, and I just see the beginning of really bad behavior, especially on a platform like TikTok, where you see this younger generation, you see these self-destructive behaviors, and you don't want to be that old guy, but at the same time, it's like, holy shit, man, I remember being that kid.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like I do feel like both my mental health, my addiction definitely played a role in me deciding not to have kids, because my mom had to watch her own son, both of her sons, actually, me and my brother. She had to watch both of us struggle with addiction after herself getting sober. After being sober for quite a few years, she had to watch both of her sons go through addiction, and one of them go through a mental health diagnosis of schizophrenia. And I look back and I imagine how hard that is on her. Like, yes, of course, boohoo, I also had to deal with like addiction and mental health. But I look at it as, imagine how she feels knowing that we grew up watching her struggle with drugs. We grew up with the possibility of developing, a disorder that causes hallucinations and delusions. I always knew that was a possibility because of her diagnosis. And so I know that affected her, and I couldn't get myself to get past that. Like, I didn't want to be a dad having to watch my kids struggle with addiction, or have to have a psychotic break in college because of my genetics that I carry. And so it was definitely something I considered.
Yeah, and I'm on the same page there, man. I mean, honestly, the world doesn't need more of this. That's kind of where I'm at,
That is an understatement.
Yeah, right. Jeez. And plus, I don't even like sharing my bagels. Like I don't want to share with some kid and then when you 18 have to put him through college. Are you kidding me? No, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, but Like I said, I think we're both kind of on the same page with that. We have enough worrying about ourselves before we could focus all of our attention onto tiny little humans.
Yeah.
Even at Zach's very, very, very old age, he's still doing a lot of soul searching, and he doesn't have time to invest
It's
that.
true.
I mean, can 60-year-olds even have kids?
Well, I've got a young fiance, so yeah, probably. In between watching Murder, She Wrote and my stories, I can probably rub a kid out.
Probably could have squeezed it in if you wanted to.
Probably.
All right.
Yes.
Next question. I did want to touch on this one quick, just really quick. Lauren Maria asked, what are the differences between schizophrenia and schizoaffective disorder? So I mentioned my mother is diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder. I'm diagnosed with schizophrenia. The main difference is schizoaffective has a personality disorder component to it. Mood disorder component to it. So schizophrenia is primarily the struggles with hallucinations, delusions, paranoia. And schizoaffective is all of those same symptoms, but with a co-diagnosis of either depression or bipolar disorder, aka a mood disorder. The next question is from Cassandra. It says, Cassandra.
Thank you.
And the question is, my nephew is 19 and about to get out of juvie. Any advice for what his family can do to support him, but not enable? He has anger and depression issues.
So, excellent question, Cassandra. Honestly, you have to understand where they're coming from, and it depends on how long they were locked up for. But a big thing that you can do for someone to get out of prison or jail or juvie or whatever is just let them be okay. Let them stay at home for a little bit and watch TV and just enjoy being. Don't let them go out and drink and drug or anything, but just give them some space and some time to adjust. I remember, as much as I love my grandma, when I got to her house after I got let out, she was kind of on me for being on the couch for a little bit. And it wasn't until I had to explain to her, listen, I haven't had a couch to sit on for years at this point, and I haven't had a TV to watch for years, that she really understood I just need some time to exist. So just take a few steps back, let them have their space, and let them get reacclimated to society.
Yeah, that's all really good points. And I would say I understand. So not only have I been an addict and been in jail, but my little brother was also someone who struggled with addiction and incarceration. And so I understand not only being someone getting out of jail, but being the friend or family member of someone getting out of jail and just being worried for them. You want to watch everything they do. You want to make sure they don't end up back there. But unless you give them space to reacclimate to the world, to how things work, to getting a job, to just existing outside of jail, like Zach said, you forget that when someone lives in a space for an extended amount of time, say a year, if you are in jail for a year, you forget how the outside world works. That is 24 hours of your day, every single day. And you forget how society works and just even the small pleasures you had before you went in. And so you might think, yeah, they've been sitting on the couch for a couple of weeks. They've been playing video games. They've been eating a lot of junk food. They're trying to get back into what it's like to have freedom, to be able to go home, to be able to just go out for a walk, to be able to not have to go out to the yard. Like their everyday life has changed. And so, like Zach said, obviously make sure they're not getting back into the same old ways, but you do have to give them the space. You have to try to trust them to be able to reacclimate to the real world.
And that's a really good point, the whole trust thing. I know the first reaction you're going to have is to not trust them. It's understandable. They are a convicted criminal. By all means, everything logically would say don't trust them. But if you want your relationship with them to work and if you want them to succeed, you're going to have to trust them a little bit. You're going to have to lay down your preconceived notions of what they're going to do or anything like that, and just allow yourself to put a little trust in them. And I know that's scary. It's a terrifying thought, but nothing drives someone back to old habits more than just people treating them like they're going to go back to old habits, you know?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And before we get to the last few questions, we definitely have time for one or two more questions. But I did want to just remind everyone that if you are interested in trying out any of Manscaped's wonderful products, don't forget to use the code Zac and Kody at checkout for 20% off your order. I highly recommend, if you're going to try out any of their products, go ahead and try out the Lawnmower 4.0. It is the 4th generation trimmer. And it is really, really good for being waterproof, and it has LED lights on it. So
it's like a party for your balls.
it is. It's like a small party for your balls.
Put on some house music in the background, go to town. Yeah.
And then there is a new product, which me and Zac are super excited for, which is the Weed Whacker. And that is also a waterproof product, but it's for nose and ear hair trimming. And I know it's hard to tell, but I've looked at Zac in person, and he could definitely benefit from this product.
It's true. I am Jewish.
Well, now I feel like I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah, anti-Semite.
Wow. All right. Well, if anyone else has one or two more questions, we would love to finish this off on a strong note. But we do want to thank you guys for joining us, allowing us to do a Q&A today. Just a reminder, moving forward, we do have some guests that are going to be joining us, including we do have a correctional officer and a mental health officer, former correctional officer, current mental health officer. We have someone with DID that's planning on joining us, as well as Gabe Howard. He is an author and bipolar advocate.
Bipolar advocate, I mean, it just sounds like somebody who's really for bipolar disorder.
More like me, as a schizophrenia advocate, I wouldn't say that I'm like, oh, go schizophrenia.
Go schizo. Yeah.
It's more, helping people be more aware of it. I think that's more what we mean by bipolar advocate. But I see how you could get that confused.
I mean, yeah, it's understandable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We do have another question here from Ellis Ingham. What should I do with drinking every day in my lower teens?
So obviously you're English, right? I'm assuming you're from the UK. If I'm wrong, tell me I'm wrong. But I was, the only reason I say that is because drinking every day is kind of a cultural thing over there, more so than it is here, in certain areas. Honestly, the best thing you can do for yourself is to try to plug into people who aren't drinking every day. You know, whoever you're drinking with every day, unless you're drinking alone, that's especially bad, but try to separate yourself from them. I know that's difficult. Yes, they're from the UK. Got it.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. I was like, when they asked the question, I was like, well, should be drinking in your lower teens anyways, but I suppose if you're from the UK, what is the drinking age there? 18?
It's 18, but honestly, it's not as heavily looked down upon as it is here, to say the least.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's something I wasn't aware of. I would also piggyback off what Zac said. When I was super young, there was people that were drinking. And at that point, like I said, I wasn't really struggling with any sort of addiction, primarily because I didn't hang around those people. So if that's something like that you're concerned with, the people you're spending time with, I would definitely recommend looking at being around people who are doing other things, whether it's, joining a sport, whether it's, your younger teens, there's so much you can do, and there's still hope before you turn into an adult.
Right. And I do sympathize a little bit. I mean, I come from, the half of my family I was mostly raised by is very Irish. So drinking was just done at home from the time I was 14. I came home and I drank at night, and it wasn't really looked down upon. So I wish I could have had the wherewithal as a young man to step back and say, hey, this is horrible. And honestly, you're way ahead of where I was at your age, Ellis. You can tell this is a bad habit. So honestly, good on you.
All right. And then last question here. Deb Ward asked, do you answer messages on Instagram? You can reach out to the Criminally Mental Podcast Instagram with any questions. Yes, Zac, I did manage to get logged in, so we do have access to that now.
Yes.
You can also, if you want a question specifically for me or Zac, definitely send us an email to the Criminally Mental email. So that's just criminallymental@gmail.com. Both I and Zach will have access to that. I don't think he does right now.
Probably not.
Even if he did, he might not be aware of it.
No, definitely not.
So I will make sure that he also has access to that email. But definitely send us a message on our dual Instagram. You can also shoot us a message on our email as well. Zach, do you have any final words for the wonderful people who asked us a bunch of questions today?
Thank you guys all for being here. We really do appreciate you. I know we said this many times before, but there's no way we would be here doing this if it wasn't for you guys. So many thanks to you guys.
Also, one last thank you to our sponsor, Manscaped, and make sure you guys check out Manscaped and use the code Zach and Kody for 20% off your next order. And on the final note today, let's all just remember that Zach was the homecoming queen. Everyone have a wonderful night, and thank you for joining us on the Criminally Mental Podcast.
I hate you so fucking much.
I hate you too, buddy. Good night, everyone.